Clear. Here they come.
Hi guys, how are you? And yeah, we're we're kind of like more ready this week than we were last week. Welcome. Today's Friday, August 28th. I can't believe it. Hi, lovely Jen. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. I like your bow tie. It's so fun.
Thank you. So we're super excited. Just like every Friday, this is the highlight of our week every week, and we love this assignment. And if you are watching from the future, please watch the inspiration video and also read the art statement that we did for this assignment or series or collection. But we are thrilled and very excited. So we're going to start sketching right away. I'm going to use a photograph. If you are watching live, so you can hide any screen that it's not live, so you only have one or two, if that facilitates the viewing. What else? We will take a break of 10 minutes at the end of the 2 hours, and then after that we will do some critique, group critique, and any questions you may have, just let us know. Any issues, you can text Jen, you can put it in the chat. And yeah, so I decided, I'm just going to share the images in the folder we put. Are these the images? Hold on one second. No, they are not. So I think they are, yes. We put, oh, okay. Are these the images? Let me see. I'm just going to share. I guess not. Sorry, this was something else. So let me see if I can just share this images for 1 second, because I want to show you what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the most difficult one. I don't know why. Oh, whoa. I see some good stuff here. Yay. So let me see if I can just share again and if this works. Yes, Google Chrome. Okay, good. And this, I've decided to use this image. I think you can see, Jen, you can see, right, the image?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I went yesterday on scavenger hunt looking for shop windows that were boarded up, and I found a handful actually. So I just decided to do this for many reasons. Number one, because I talked about Martin Wong, the Chinese American artist who lived in San Francisco, and I absolutely love that painting of the closed shop window with the fence. So this reminded me of his painting, and I just thought, why not? And the second one is because there's a reflection of the palm trees on the top, and it just feels very Southern California. So I think it contextualizes the location of the shop window in a way that I find playful and descriptive of where the action of this window is happening. This is on Fairfax Avenue, north of Cantors, below Melrose. This used to be a hair salon that was very popular. That strip of Fairfax between Beverly and Melrose has undergone a huge transformation. I'm going to be very brief, but it used to be an area with a lot of like Jewish-owned businesses, and then it got gentrified in a different way, because a lot of clothing stores and independent black-owned businesses started popping up, and now they're taking over. So it's major transformation in the last, I would say, 5 years. But the hair salon did not survive. It was a really cool hair salon. I've never been inside, but the area now, it's so edgy because of the high school being nearby, the Fairfax High. That area has always had that very upbeat, interesting um, amalgam I don't know if that word exists, but I just throw it out there. Amalgam. Have you heard that word before, Jen?
No, but I immediately want to look it up.
Yeah, I have no idea, but who knows? I'll find the right one if it's not the correct one. But anyhow, so I'm just gonna go ahead and then we're recording. That's perfect. Let me see if I can just do it in a way that I don't disturb the camera, and I hope I can. I'm just gonna move it a little bit to the right or to the left. Yeah, so landscape orientation. I am not afraid of the texture of anything. That should be my number one commandment. Don't be afraid of our number one commandment. Don't be afraid of texture. So I'm just gonna unpack this image one fold at a time. Okay, so that's the way to kind of like approach everything. Just one step at a time. I'm going for lines that are cropped.
Julio, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So sorry to do this as you just started sketching, but do you mind going back on the screen and looking at the photo that Darlene is using?
Yes.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna go to right now, and here it is. And this is the image that Darlene chose. Just wanted to triple check.
I think she's just curious about it, maybe like the context of it.
Yeah, so this used to be, it's on Beverly as well, and it's right next to a photo store, yeah, that I go all the time, owned by Melvin. Melvin is a wonderful shop owner. He happens to be Jewish, and he has this store forever, and it's like a time capsule. I know that that's not the store, but I go to Malvin all the time. This used to be the mid-century city furniture store, and it used to have very specific furniture pieces, authentic vintage furniture pieces from Norway or Sweden. So it was very specifically a very specific criteria. They were mostly wooden pieces, and they were from Northern Europe. And I forgot the name of the shop, but it was a very, very interesting shop. They painted, by the way, the stone outside. You cannot appreciate it here, but it's painted metallic with silver metallic paint. So it really stood out with that kind of paint. It's not super shiny. And then all the wooden furniture, really strange, authentic, vintage, mid-century from Norway and Iceland and Sweden from the 50s and 60s. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm sure Darlene will appreciate the context because of where she lives, what she likes, and the paintings that she's done before. I'll find out exactly. You can find out if you want, Jen, if you don't mind. The photo store is called Photo Center on Beverly, and this is right next to it.
Okay.
So in case they have a website, and if you can see an about page and maybe be a little bit more specific.
Sure.
All right, so let's just do this. And any questions, anytime, happy to do this. And here we go. And I just, as I was taking the photographs, because at the very beginning, I thought this could be really intimidating because the images that I posted on the folder about the website, the Whitney website, were very specific, just a piece of plywood against a black background. And I just thought that, you know, painting, I didn't want this to sound like we're painting plywood only, just because the image, the visual image that I get in my mind when I just say this, it's it seems very challenging. You know, painting plywood, or what are we going to do here? All the knots and different shades, which it would be actually a really cool assignment. So I consider this more a streetscape rather, an architectural like the kind of painting. And we decide how much we want to feature and how much we want to leave out. We could do this in 2 hours, 1 hour, or half an hour sketch. It doesn't matter. And again, you measure. Imagine that you have a giant dropper. I think it's a dropper. And then you squeeze and you let whatever amount of drops you want and on this painting, and the drops being the elements you want to feature. Is it going to have like 10 drops, 20 drops? So you decide how much of it you want in. So it's a good assignment to sort of control that aspect, the amount of information. So I did a couple of things for this because I wanted to simplify the images. And in case of Darlene, that she chose one of the ones that we used or that I took yesterday. So I did a treatment on the image that hopefully is going to help. I did it to simplify my life. So every image that you take with a smartphone, it's just going to have distortion. The lines are going to be converging or diverging or diagonal or anything like that. So I use an app that can move the edges of the photograph. So I made all the vertical and horizontal lines vertical and horizontal. So the reason why, it's because I wanted this to have more of the illusion of me standing in front of it, or us standing in front of it. So I did treat the image that way. And I also, what I did was to lighten up the shadows a little bit. My theory is that any image taken with a smartphone, the shadows are very dark. So what I did was to lighten up the shadows. Doesn't matter if you do that or not. It doesn't really matter. Anything really matters. But I just wanted to tell you what I did in regards of trading. So I'm just going about and I'm creating kind of a grid. Composition, everyone who's watching live or from the future. It's the biggest thing anytime and every time we do this. Watch for the arrangement of things on your painting surface. I'm using 16 by 12. It's a little bit on the large scale for the time and the amount of work that we're going to dedicate to it. But depending on your painting surface, you are going to decide if you want, how you're going to arrange the elements. All right, so simplification. This is not the time to do texture right now. Sketching, it's mostly an opportunity to arrange, map out, and draft where your main components on this the composition are going to end up within the painting surface. So let's focus on that premise, where our main components are going to land based on the painting surface, on the format, on the format that we are given or we're working with. Format being the size and the shape and the orientation of the painting surface. So 3 things: the size, the shape, and the orientation. A format could be square, rectangular, could be round, oval. That used to be a popular format shape a while ago. If you go to an art store, you can still find oval canvases. So that's the shape. The size being whatever measurement you have. Again, I'm using 12 by 16. And the orientation, in my case, I do landscape. I'm doing landscape orientation. There are two main orientations, landscape and portrait. And mind you, these three criteria, they're the classic criteria to do a painting, but they're not the only ones. There are a lot of artists that want to break down those three components and change both the format and the painting surface. And they incorporate different shapes, they incorporate different concepts in regards of transparency, absence of, omission. So I'm saying this, if you are watching this from the future, a collection of my paintings were featured recently in issue number 145. I'm doing a total plug here of the New American Paintings. It's an awesome catalog that you should check. You can check it for free. And if you check it, there's a wonderful range of artists who work with painting, and the majority use a very classical format and painting surface, but there are some exceptions. And one of those exceptions is moi, because I changed both. I changed the painting surface. I'm using plastic bags. And I changed the format shape. It's not a regular square or rectangular. So just to give you an idea that this is not always the same. It doesn't have to be the same. All right, I did my sales pitch. And there's some other examples there. The guy who puts underwear on the painting frames, that's another example of breaking down, rebelling against, and not complying with the classical format and painting surface that we're used to. All right, so then what? So then I'm just gonna, now that I have the grid, I may just do a little bit of shading. I wanna find out where are my darks. I usually say it's a way to break down the value scale of the entire composition and start finding some order. Because what we want is to be efficient with our time. And so a way to be efficient is to, again, unpack, unfold, lay the cards on the table, and start creating an order with value. So that way we know where the darks are going to be, and we can start with those when we start painting. I squint my eyes. I imagine that this is a black and white photo. And when you could do, if you are working from your phone right now and you don't have anything printed, you can do something that's going to help you tremendously. You could make a version of the image that you're using, make it black and white, and make sure you duplicate it so you don't overwrite the image that you have. It's easy to do when you edit, when you go on images and you edit, they give you an option. I think you first need to duplicate it because otherwise it overwrites everything. But find a way, here's me just saying, okay, you're on your own. Find a way to turn that image into black and white, because it could be a great way to do the values or see the values better in order to break down the value scale. All right, so I'm getting to know this image. I feel comfortable because I found some peaceful flat areas, so that makes me feel good. And because my eyes immediately go to the fence and they go to the bulbs on the sign, and I'm freaking out. And then there's some graffiti and numbers and textures, and that first comes first, and then I kind of like panic. But I know that I have learned to, here's the Julio, the philosopher. I have learned to see past restrictions and not let restrictions dictate my decision making. And I'm still working on it, but usually the process goes like this in the creative process. And you can apply this to absolutely everything in life. How is that for a plus in addition to painting? So we have a tendency, I have a tendency of looking, and the older I get, the more it's present, to look at things and look at the restrictions first. And by restrictions, I mean things that I feel are going to make my life difficult. This is too hard. There are too many elements. It's a portrait and it's so my mind has been sort of like trained to look at restrictions first. And then I make a decision based on that. So I'm learning to break that down and to not rely on it, because I'm not going to say that's wrong, but it doesn't work for me. And it's just, it's too restrictive, and creatively, it's not a good place to be. So my suggestion is see past the restrictions. And by restrictions, I mean the challenges, and find something that really speaks to you. Conceptually, you feel, what's the, a harmony, or you feel like that's something that appeals to you conceptually. Let me put it this way. So I tried to explain why I chose this image, because of that connection with Martin Wong's work, because of the palm trees, and I moved past the restrictions. It's different from for any of us. So it's different for all of us. And we are at different points in our lives where restrictions play different roles. So sometimes they play a more predominant role because we may have had an experience or with it, or it's early in our lives, or it's later in our lives. But there's always, we're always at a place in that sense. My point is that creatively, I honestly believe it's not a right place to be. It's not a right place to be. I'm going to bring up the sunflowers. I'm going to bring up Sarah Jennings, and how that painting represented so many challenges at the very beginning. And we talked about how much of a painting achievement I consider that painting. Why? Because she was able to see past those restrictions, challenges. And okay, no, never mind. And she succeeded in creating something remarkable. So that's the example. Okay, let's just go back to business. And I think I have pretty much an idea of the structure. I'm pretty content with it, although it doesn't have as many details as I see, but I have pretty much what I wanted. What is that we want with this stage? We want, and by all means, please, please, please pause and revisit what you've done, because we just zoom through this and we overlook so many things. Is that the arrangement that you are happy with, are content with? Have you considered the placement of your elements, architectural elements? Go over once, twice, thrice, 10 times. Charles Dickens used the word thrice many times in the novels, and it just it's such a cheesy word, but I just love it. Yeah, thrice. Who uses this? All right, so let's just go back to business. As I said, I'm just going to use the big brush. I'm using 2 solvents. The mineral spirits, that's going to be my first use for my first layer, which is the staining layer. And then it's going to be used to clean up the brushes. And then the second liquid is a mixture of a medium and an oil. I love using that combination. I don't even measure if it's half and half. I just pour a little bit of the oil. I use poppy seed oil because we've been painting for months and we're getting really fancy. But you can paint, you guys, you can paint with any oil. If you find yourselves without any painting oil, grab the olive oil that you may have in your kitchen, and you can also paint with that, believe it or not. So you can use that as a medium. So any oil does it. But yeah, we're getting really fancy, and poppy seed oil is an oil that slows down the drying. So which I want because I want to work this. I want to work on this like this weekend. So I want that. I want that slowness, and then you can just put a medium. You can put a medium to just make sure that it's balanced, I think. All right, so I'm gonna go with the first stage. Oh, I changed my palette also. I changed my palette, and let me see. Okay, never mind. So I changed my palette, and I'm going to change the order. I'm just going to, since now we have 2 whites and 2 blacks. So what I'm doing is I'm going to organize it in a way that has the 2 whites side by side and the 2 blacks side by side, plus the gray on one side. And then also I have the browns on another side, and I have the pink and the blue. Question, right, Jen?
Sorry, yes, there is. So we have a question of what does Julio mean by mixing any oil with the paint, as in olive oil?
Oh, I'm just saying that you can use any oil to mix with the paint. And I do not recommend it. Let me just say this. I wouldn't recommend it, but technically, if you are out of oils, if you're out of linseed oil, or if it's too gooey, you could use any cooking oil and mix it with paint. You could do it. If you could paint with olive oil, mix with paint, the oil paint. You could use what's the grapeseed oil. It's kind of like popular in some kitchens. You could use grapeseed oil. That's actually a really good carrier for oil. I have other oils, baking oils, sunflower, safflower. Safflower was used for painting before it was used for cooking. So you could use technically any oil. I don't know what it would do on the painting, and each oil acts differently, but technically it's something that you could definitely use if you don't have oil. So I just put like a very extreme case of not having any oil whatsoever. You could use a cooking oil if you wanted to. So I'm using the blacks right now. So as you know, because we're getting so fancy, we now have 2 blacks, a cold black and a warm black. And so the cold black is the Payne's Gray, and the warm black is the Van Dyke Brown. And then we use 2 whites, the titanium white and the zinc white. So you don't have to have them. And you're welcome to see other webinars or to find out when we did it, or you can ask us. But yeah, I'm using right now just mineral spirits and a little bit of the warm black. And we're using 2 blacks. And I just wanted to say that black paint was forbidden in Impressionist palettes. So the Impressionists did not use black. So it was completely out of the question. It was censored. It was not part of their revolutionary approach to painting. They created dark tones with other colors. They mixed blues. You can mix blue like ultramarine with a brown or with an orange, and you can get like a really deep color. You can mix red and green. and you can get a really deep color. So they use dark colors, but the palette never had black. It was forbidden by their standards. I find that interesting, and now we're using two. I consider, we talked about this in Ruthless in Colloquium, I consider using Mars Black in a palette to be a very beginner's palette. So I would recommend to someone who's never painted in their lives to use Mars Black, which is the blackest black, and it has no temperature. I would recommend it if they would basically just pull my hair and say, no, I want a black. I would hesitantly say, okay, so use Mars Black, but I don't recommend it in our palettes at all. We can do better blacks with other tones. Yeah, so I'm using gray. I'm just gonna do darker to lighter. I work fast. The purpose of this staining is to prime the surface, prime the painting surface, regardless of the surface, whether it's gesso, whether it's canvas, gessoed canvas, board, plastic, metal. It doesn't matter. I like to prime it, even non-porous surfaces. It's always a good idea to have some sort of like liquid. I'm using cotton paper, so definitely this needs some priming. It's amazing when I mistakenly used regular paper for my sunflower painting. The absorbency was so drastic, it was really hard to paint with. But the cotton paper, it almost acts as fabric, a really fine fabric. It's a really excellent surface to paint on top of. So it doesn't absorb as much. The problem with too much absorption is that the paint becomes flat. So yeah, I had that problem with the sunflowers. I now have to varnish them, because if I want the darks, there are a lot of dark areas in the sunflowers. If I want that color to pop, I need to varnish it, which is something I generally don't do. Only, I'm not against it, but I only do it if I need the sheen to be unified. All right, so I think I'm just doing okay. Just going darker to lighter. And I'm using, whoa. This is like a yellow ochre straight up, and it's way too much. So I'm gonna add a little bit of ecru and a little bit of gray. Those two tones are great to balance, bring down, desaturate. Oh yeah, that already looks good. The paint from the tube is way too bright. Way too bright, way too pigmented. I think that could be the correct term. I'm super excited about this collection of paintings. I think, yeah, I think this is something that is very significant of the time that we're living right now. So I'm really happy that we're doing it. It's our form of plein air during this time. I was mentioning that plein air generally appeals to a very specific aesthetic, pretty and pastoral images. Not necessarily, but that's the common theme. And it's up to us to break same concept as those painters that broke the classic criteria for format and painting surface. The rules are there to break. So that's why this is not the typical quote unquote plein air. And that's why I'm really excited about this. Yeah, really excited. Just blocking out big shapes, one step at a time. I am not uh, I am not going to get overwhelmed by any of this, because I know better and I have experience with the emotional approach to things. I know how um, I've learned to see through restrictions. I think that's the theme of this webinar, to see past restrictions. Restrictions being challenges that we think we have. Yeah, so I think that's it. That's gonna be my easy peasy. That's my wash. It's already looking great. So 5 or 6, or I don't even know, months ago, um, I never complimented myself during any of the process. I never do, but I just do now. I just have to find my own source of fuel in order to move forward. So this is something that I encourage everyone to do. Find the reason to be happy about. There's always one. And all right, so I think that's good. I'm gonna take a mini pause. So 40 minutes, I think that's not too bad because it gives us 20 minutes actually before the first hour to work on first notes. Usually we barely have time to include first notes, but now we have 20 minutes. So what are first notes and how are they different from staining? So first notes is the first official layer of paint that we add on the painting surface. And they are fields of color that determine the location and the color identity of the main shapes on our painting. The difference between this and staining is that the staining has a purely technical function, which is to transition from dry to wet. And it's meant to, the technical function is to prime the surface and to seal the charcoal and just give us a little bit of breakdown of values on the painting. But with first notes, what I want to do is to apply color fields following the same criteria of darker to lighter, focusing on neutrals, my suggestion. Focus on neutrals first. And yeah, so we want to build on our first layer using the wash, the staining, and start building some opacity. And for that, the difference also, the technical difference is that I stopped using the mineral spirits, and I use the medium as the binding agent or the solution that's going to give me a little bit more thickness or consistency on the paint. So I switched my brush, big one, medium one, and I'm ready for my first notes. As I said, use the medium and go darker to lighter. So right now I can be a little bit more specific. The first note, it's a combination of applying color fills and also re-sketching in a way. Because right now I can be more focused on drawing. So I'm just going darker to lighter. So there's a dark cast shadow created underneath the frame of the frame. So that's what I'm doing. I try to always isolate the stage that I work on. And what it means is that I don't look at what this is supposed to look like right now. I just get rid of all that noise. And what I'm doing is just, where are my darks? And I'm creating a layer that's slightly darker. And I'm using the medium brush and I'm slowly resketching, and then I'll be applying color fields, like blocking out. First notes, if there was a synonym for first notes, it would be to block out with color. Okay, so it's a streetscape. So we have a lot of forgiving space, or yeah, forgiving space. We have a lot of forgiving, yeah, space. What am I talking about? In the sense that we don't have to worry as much about proportions or anything like that. We have the liberty of making our own measurement relationships, measuring relationships. So one thing is clear for me, and it could be applied to any work that we are doing. I do stick with darker to lighter and using neutrals first. That it doesn't matter what I work on. It's a strong, safe, risk-free way to start unfolding this this painting, deconstructing it, or yeah, because I think that's a good word. We have to take it apart in order to build it piece by piece. And so for me not to get overwhelmed, what I do is I stick to this criteria of darker to lighter. I use the wash as a base, and then I start sketching over it. There's a bike rack on the photograph, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use it or feature it. For now, I don't want to, because I don't want to have anything that interrupts my brushstroke. But it may be something that I may include later on the painting. Yeah. All right. So this is it's moving forward. Again, I'm just gonna keep an eye on my time. No one talks about this, but time management is a compartment in our toolbox that should get more attention. We need to learn to be better time managers. That's something no one will tell you, but it's very important in regards of becoming a better painter. Be better at managing time. Strongly believe in that. People don't pay attention because seems not related to technique, you know. It's not about, you know, how do you make this color and how do you mix this and what do you get. It's not related. It supersedes all of that. If you don't manage your time that you allocate for painting in an efficient way, it doesn't matter how much you know about colors and paintings and brushes and all that stuff. You know, it's going to become a problem. A challenge, not a problem. I can start, my eyes are start to getting recalibrated, and I can start seeing that the neutrals are not that neutral anymore. So this has this gray has a blue cast. So I'm going to start to kind of like bring more of a temperature, and I'm going to develop this when we do the second notes. This is almost the beginnings of the second notes, when I actually start focusing, studying, and analyzing, and learning about the color temperature in each of the first notes blocks. Jen, just because I don't know much about Martin Wong's life, could you pull up the bio and see if there's something interesting, where he was from, where he studied, and
Yeah,
any kind of.
I already did it. It's in the notes, but I'll pull it up now. But one thing that surprised me of how young he was when he passed away.
Oh,
He was
how
only 53.
53.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, yeah. It says Wong's paintings often explored multiple ethnic and racial identities, exhibited cross-cultural elements, demonstrated multilingualism, and celebrated his queer sexuality. He was born in Portland, Oregon in 1946 and died in San Francisco in 1999.
Wow.
Went to Humboldt State University. And let's see, he was an only child. Um,
Was
he
he
got a
part of any group of any movement, any school, or because in the Bay Area, the Bay Area
right.
was the best. Yeah.
Let's see. He had an apartment in Haight Ashbury. He was active at the Bay Area art scene,
Yeah.
which highlighted, which makes me believe that that's its
Yeah.
own thing. Oh, he was a set designer for a performance art group called the Angels of Light.
Oh.
He participated in the emerging hippie movement, and engaged in the period's climate of sexual freedom and experimentation with psychedelic drugs. Love Wikipedia knows that. um, he got his bachelor's in ceramics.
Oh,
Um, he moved to Manhattan at one point. He worked
oh.
at the bookstore of the Met.
Worked where?
Worked at the bookstore of the
Oh.
Met.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Mm.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's always interesting to learn and stuff and see their paths.
Yeah. His American Sign Language was the focus of Wong's for a series of paintings he made in the early 1980s.
Oh,
Kind of cool.
I wonder why.
I know.
Interesting. Yeah, I think there was a museum. I think the Brooklyn Museum is trying to raise the profile of his work. It just was not in anyone's radar, I guess. And I think it's important. I think what the paintings are incredible. Lots of walls and brick walls, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, lots of walls. So I think conceptually that's something that I find interesting because it's an expression and a symbol of restrictions, talking about restrictions and challenges, um, and obstacles, and yeah, I thought it was interesting. And yeah, I mean, immediately it just popped in my mind, uh, the uh, the storefront windows.
Oh my gosh, Julio, you'll think this is crazy. Okay, so you know how you're painting something on Fairfax right now,
Yeah.
and how on Fairfax, right in that area, is the Supreme store.
Yes.
Martin Wong also had a few collaborations with the clothing brand Supreme.
Really?
Doesn't that just blow your mind?
Wow.
Supreme released a number of items such as an 8-ball shirt with some of his art as a graphic on the piece and an 8-ball hoodie of the same design among many other pieces.
Wow. This is like some quantum shit.
Dude, you do this a lot. You're I don't know, you're in touch with something. It's amazing.
Wow. How, I mean, the Supreme store, I thought it was something new or recent, but
I
does it
did
mean
too.
it's been around for a long time? Is that what it
I don't
means?
know. It it doesn't say what year, unless I missed it. Hold on. It might have been later. I don't know.
Okay,
So 1999. It seems that he died of an AIDS-related
right.
disease,
Yeah.
and um, of course, right after that, he like blew up. I guess. Two of his paintings are in the Whitney. The Museum of Modern Art has three.
Wow.
He has work in the Art Institute of Chicago, and then it just says under that he has collaborated with Sabrine. So I don't know.
Um, was he was he recognized during his life or not really? I mean, recognized meaning like, did he have any major shows or something? Because it seems like,
Right,
he didn't. Probably he had a side job, right?
he did. Well, that says that he had a side job when he first moved to New York, and
Okay.
then he moved back to San Francisco. I think when he got sick. In
Oh,
'94 is when he moved back to San Francisco. So he was in New York for a while. But yeah, it does talk a lot about how he made ends meet. So
okay.
even if he was successful, it seems that he still needed some additional support.
Right.
Um,
Interesting. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just, um, yeah, an interesting visual storyteller. Let's put it this way, quite
yeah,
timely, I would say, because of all the racial, suppression, I guess, or not suppression, but it's nice that he used different elements from different cultures and stuff.
yeah. So I just looked up Supreme, and it looked like it was established in 1994 in New York.
Wow.
He would have just gotten ill at that time. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if maybe he
They did it when he was alive or after
it
the
doesn't say.
collaboration. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't say. It
Okay.
just says that he had one.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, that's
Sure.
fascinating. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Um, so if you come up with something else, just don't hesitate to stop or interrupt me. But that I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, so I am still doing. Yeah, I still have 5 minutes. This is actually good. So I don't feel rushed. I'm just going about darker to lighter, and I applied some shadows on top. I did the tiles here. I'm starting to do the plywood, and in fact, I should have probably done this door right here, but it's okay. I'll do the plywood, and I realized that the plywood that I did was, and you can see it compared with the image. The plywood that I did with the yellow ochre on my wash was way too yellow, even though I used gray and ecru to tone it down. It was still very yellow. So I had to add a bunch of, not a bunch, but a significant amount of um, burnt sienna in order to make it warmer. So this is a color that I'm a little bit more comfortable with. It's not the yellow ochre. And I actually like the combination of, or the warmth of this temperature, because I feel everything is pretty cool and gray. And I think this could become some sort of like subject or positive space in that sense. I'm doing tests. So what's a color test? So when I look at color, I initially I depart from the position that I will not be able to see the true color until I work with it and I work with the rest of the colors of the painting. I make that assumption in a humble way because it doesn't matter how experienced you are, it always happens. So assume that the color that you see will not be the true color that you'll end up using. Make that assumption right as early as possible because it's just going to be a better place or a better position. So as my eyes get more acclimated with the image, I start to see differences in the color, warmer, lighter, cooler, bluer, or, my eyes start I like to use the word calibrate, recalibrating, because I start seeing more color. So a color test means that I make a combination of colors on the palette, and they usually involved a neutral as a major component, and then some sort of like other colors to create variations. But that's my mainstream approach: a neutral and then some variations, small amounts of other colors. And then what I do is I do it on the palette, but I know that that's not enough. It's not enough. We are massively colorblind, and with all due respect to true colorblind people, but we don't see the color unless we actually contrast it right next to the surface that we want to paint. So what I do is I make a color right here, but that's not the final step of my test, because this is where we stop. We make the color and then boom, we apply it. I highly recommend you guys to include a new step. Make the color on the palette and then test it. Test it if you have something printed. If you don't have something printed, test it by getting a little bit of the color and putting it against the screen that you're using. Blow up the screen, make the image larger. Don't paint on the glass, but you can just put this color sample right on top of it and then decide if it's too dark or too light, too warm or too cold. For me, those are the 4 major criteria that I use. So yeah, all that to just tell you that I did a color test. How about that? I did a color test. Oops, sorry. There's some nonsense popping up that it shouldn't pop up, but it just keeps popping up. Ah, okay, I think that's popping up. Okay, so a couple of minutes. My first notes, they're gonna take a little bit more time, and I always revisit, even if I'm doing this without or individually or non-collectively. I always stop and articulate where I'm at, what I've done, and what how much time I have left, and what's the strategy for the time that I have left. Always, always, always. Well, that sounded a little weird, but yeah, I always do that. So I'm halfway through. I've done the sketch and the first wash, and I'm working on the first notes. I have another hour, and within that other hour, I haven't decided the strategy yet, but I will in a couple of minutes. So it just takes a few seconds to assess where we are. Because otherwise, if I don't do that, I become redundant on my brushstrokes, on my strategy, on everything. I go around the bush and then don't really accomplish anything. I constantly have to check on myself and find out where I'm at, how far I've gone, and how much time do I have left. Always. Did I say always? So I'm just going to take a couple more minutes because I'm going to go on a conceptual tangent right here. But in searching, after I found out about the project, the Whitney, which I think is really clever, and it just made me realize how much, and I'm just going to say this, I'm going to go political and conceptual, how much of a desert Southern California is in regards of the arts. And we're still so behind, and it makes me so upset. But I use the word NYC centric because it still is. I just don't like the fact that We're still looking at New York for news and for events and for things. But I'm just going to tell you the chasm. The Whitney Museum, which has done a lot of bad things this past week, and we can talk about it because that's very interesting, but is coming up with ideas to do some virtual stuff that is engaging and clever. And these sunrise and sunset interventions, I think they're clever. Let's look back at LA. I mean, I'm saying Southern California. What are we doing? The LACMA is burning through $750 million, rushing through demolition, and then not doing anything. Darlene, they may still charge for entrance, if you ask me. I don't even know, but they probably still charge. And I don't know if you've seen the stage of demolition of the LACMA, but it's pretty much all gone, the 3 pavilions. So that's one thing, one whiny thing that I wanted to complain about. And I just lost my train of thought. I don't know what the conceptual was. I'll just find out. It'll come to my mind. Yeah, so I'm just trying to do this. Okay, good. Does it mean it's on my plans in life to move to New York City? Absolutely not. I could not live in that city, no offense, but Jen, it's full of rats.
Oh my gosh, I literally just died when you said that. Absolutely not. That population alone says.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyhow, and just mentioning that as well because of what you said of Martin Wong moving from the West Coast to the East Coast.
Yeah, I know. There's a dumb quote in his Wikipedia that says that his friends were like, if you're so good, then why don't you move to New York? And he did. We love you, New York. We do. Yeah. We just love LA too. And LA doesn't get as much love.
Right. No, especially... it's still up. Mm-hmm. Say that again?
I said, especially from you people.
Yeah, it still applies today. It's still in painting. It still applies today. It still applies today, I have to say. If that makes sense. That it's, yeah. I hope I built on what you just said and not said something that has nothing to do with.
No, I mean, listen, it's similar. It's similar in acting as well. And I'm sure dance, all the arts. Yeah, there's just a different amount of respect. You know, it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe other people can talk to that more. I find that all to be noise as well. But there does seem to be, like, if you studied in New York or you know, were on the boards in New York or, you know, any of that, that's just such a defining moment in an actor's career that LA doesn't have that same weight, which is strange, but, you know, there you go.
Yeah, no, I know of people that have made the move. Not only actors, but designers, and, you know, talking about different fields, creative fields, design. I can't stand it. I just think, like, you know what, enough of this. And here we can make a difference. We can just, like, stop looking at the New York naval and then look at our own and look at our own. Yeah. But yeah, so that's why I didn't want to get into the politics of the Whitney Museum, but yeah. All right, so I'm just, okay, so this is developing nicely. I'm happy, 12:05, so I just went beyond 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm gonna pause for a couple of minutes. What's my strategy here? I'm gonna continue doing, like, darker to lighter. And so I have texture, let's analyze. So what I'll do is I'll spend the last, I would say, 15 minutes just working on texture, which means the bars, the graffiti, and some other small size elements. I'm gonna do that at the end. I'm gonna push it as far to the end as possible. And then the next 40 minutes or 40 minutes, 45 minutes, what I would do is I would go back and paint by location. So I think I'm gonna dedicate some time. I love the reflection of the palm trees. So that's gonna be part of my list, but I think I have to go back to the plywood. I think I have to go back to the plywood. So I'm gonna work on the variations of the plywood and second notes on plywood, and specifically on this section, the fact that it's recessed, the edge on the corner right here, the railing of the fence, and also the difference between the ground and upright elements. So I think in the next 40 minutes, I'm just gonna work on this. And I'm gonna leave out the stickers. I'm gonna leave out this other door, and I'm gonna leave out the sign. I'm gonna see how far I can go with just the board, because ultimately I have to make that reflection, because I have to ask myself, what's the idea behind this painting and what am I doing it? And the title of the collection is Border Up. So I have to make a decision to sort of like concentrate. I make the decision to concentrate on the board, on the plywood, and the fact that you want this to look like a shop that's been blocked. So I revisit the concept and then I make decisions based on that. The more often you do this kind of like thought processes, the better your paintings will be, because it will mean that you're moving past technique, past style, and you are actually concentrating on message, on concept. And that ultimately makes the painting and the painter better, the painting better, both. Yeah. So find yourself having this sort of like internal dialogues, because if you just approach a painting saying, I'm going to start from the upper left corner and I'm going to do a first pass and then I'm just going to go, that's going to create a boring piece of work ultimately. I'm sorry to say that. So you've got to prioritize, you've got to infuse your painting with some thought process. Be thoughtful about it. So, all right, so I'm just gonna, what am I gonna use? Maybe I'll just use this, the two small mediums. Yeah, it may not be related to what I said before, but I think the second, or probably that's what I wanted to say, the second most important epicenter in the United States, in my opinion, after New York City, has been the Bay Area, believe it or not. But amazingly, it's not anymore. So I think New York City sort of like became a vortex of attention, and now it's only that. But at some point, mid 20th century, there was the modernist painters of the time. They did create a very active and incredible hub of art. The Bay Area painters, David Park and all his friends, and I'm happy to kind of like say that it lasted until the 80s, because he seems to be part of the last um, part of that movement, the Bay Area School of Painters of movement. I love what they did. I love their work. I think it's incredible. It's now completely dead. I mean, no one talks about this, and there's no traction. I don't hear it. I don't hear anything. But yeah, we've always been chopped liver here in regards of arts. But that's okay. That's good. It's good to be the underdog. All right, so that's good. All right, so I'm just doing some second notes. What are second notes? Let me just define what second notes are, because that's going to help us understand what expectations we should have about them. So second notes is when I go by location, and then what I do is I analyze the color of that location and try to find variations of that color. So I still work with the medium. I put more paint so I get more coverage. And then what I do is I try to find out if there's a warmer or a cooler version, or there's a darker version and of that color, and I create variations. I don't apply new colors, meaning brand new, but I do create new colors for this. I'm finding myself using a lot of Van Dyke Brown. So I'm fully immersed right now into second notes, finding variations of color. Ultimately, and I'm just going to jump in that dissertation about thinking that living and working in a specific location may expose us to better things, and that's not really how we should look at this. First of all, we should redefine or define what success is. To me, success is that I'm still painting. that's how I define it. So I think that's the most important thing, because otherwise you get lost. We get lost into this. Countless of friends that I have that they have moved. They have moved in different parts because they thought it was better for their careers, and nothing really has changed for them. I have to say. So it's not the location that it's going to define you and your work, I think. All right, so yeah, I'm just fully immersed in second notes and trying. I know that I'm not doing the plywood, but I'm just trying to define things around it. A good example of how important this is last week with the tournesols, and how I thought Claire developed a part of the painting of the tournesols when she in fact didn't. But she did work on areas around it, and that it made it look like the actual positive space was developed. So that's how important it is to not just work on one single area, but to work around it. All right, there's a slight darkness of color right here. So I'm gonna try to see if I can make the plywood a little darker right in this area. There are 3 pieces of plywood. How about that? I'm just seeing them right now. How about that as an example of how we are not only colorblind, but we don't see everything. I just recognized a 3rd piece of plywood that I had no idea it existed. So trying to replicate, there's so much wetness on my paper that sometimes I don't use the medium. Look already, I mean, it's good to kind of like look at the smaller version of, I'm looking at the screen and it's already looking like 3 layered. I think that's the goal that I'm gonna go for. See if I can make those 3 pieces of plywood feel like 3 sheets, sorry. 3 sheets that are layered on top of each other. And I'm not gonna do any texturing right now. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet at all. This piece of plywood, it's overlapping and there's an edge. It's closer on top than on the bottom. So let's work on that amazing opportunity to create something more three-dimensional. First of all, I'm just gonna bring some more lighter version of this color right here. Oh, I know that what I wanted to talk about, that when we first initially, after the inspiration of this theme, I started to research about the boarding up of shop windows and all that happened. So I I read a few, I would say 2 or 3 articles in financial magazines or financial websites. Um, I went there somehow, you know, when I Googled, and then I saw from different financial magazines how their perspective on the boarding up was, I was completely unaware of it. I thought, you know, there was a reason from the shop owners to prevent. I mean, sometimes it's amazing how we form our opinions based on our own experience, and which is the first approach. But then I just went a little bit deeper, and I realized that most analysts, financial analysts, consider, I mean, I'm not even talking about political stuff. Most financial analysts regarded that act as a really poor choice. And it was something that I never thought of. And that's why I just added it. How the impact of that will have consequences in the revenue of their businesses later when the boards come down. And so after reading that, I realized that the first time that I saw the boards, something was off. There was something that felt aggressive. We always focus on the violence that happened and the looting, which was not widespread, but you know, it's the first thing that comes up in the news, and they love this kind of stuff. But we never tap into how our intuition sees beyond that. And I did feel like the boarding up was a pretty aggressive move. It was at first, some people did it because of the pandemic, but then the minute things were announced and protests and everything, you would see workers work overnight to bring plywood, you know, and cover the windows. And you knew that that was not pandemic related. You knew that that was because they thought there were going to be riots and they wanted to protect. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting perspective that I didn't have. And I see the point. And these articles were written from the strict financial perspective. There's nothing that they could care less about Black Lives Matter or anything. They don't see the other side. So you could argue that these are very conservative outlets, that they focus on just the bottom line. And even those approaches were not very positive. We can talk about it and see how you guys feel later when we open the microphones. How you feel about seeing the boards up. Jen, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you see that approach? Did you feel like that was kind of like a harsh, aggressive approach, or the opposite? You think that this kind of like nonsense?
You mean as far as them boarding it up as quickly as they did?
As far as like this being the wrong decision by analysts right now, and in affecting the bottom line later, and is it something when you saw it, did you feel like, whoa, this is pretty aggressive, or did you feel kind of like sad, or did you have any kind of like negative emotion towards the business?
Hmm. Um, I don't think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that's okay to say.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
did
yeah.
feel, um, I don't know. I did feel sad,
Right.
but I
Yeah.
think, okay, this is how I feel. Okay, so I didn't necessarily feel negative against the business. What
Right.
I think I felt negative about was the response and people saying things like, oh my gosh, like that people felt more enraged by the looting and
Right.
what happened to those businesses than they did by the deaths of the enormous list of people that have died because of
Right.
police brutality. And that, I think that, I don't know if those connect at all to essentially what you're saying,
No.
but yeah, I think, I think that the businesses I really respected were those that came forward and said essentially like, it's just stuff. It's just,
Yes,
yeah,
because there were
yeah.
some that stood up in
Mm-hmm.
and they some of them they got some damage, but right now they they actually have the, the analysts say that they stood in the right side of history,
Right.
even though
Yeah.
because comparing the cost of losing goods during the protest to losing customers right now, they're better
Right.
off right now. And I'm going to talk about like a corporate decision, because what was different about these riots, I mean, I'm talking out of my whatever behind, but it's the fact that the areas that were targeted were highly gentrified, and they were not the typical mom and pop businesses that got went up in flames in South LA and other areas, obviously. But
Right.
these were the big corporations that most of CVS, the Targets, and and
Mm-hmm.
to replace a glass on a window, I can tell you, it's going to cost you $2,500, and it's not like a massive loss. I'm not saying that it's right, but and these corporations are they're insured. You knew that whatever damage, it wasn't going to bring the business down,
Right.
basically. So
But I have to say, oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go
no, no,
ahead. Sorry.
like Starbucks, they actually had a plan, and they decided not to shut as a corporation, and only give the managers, the local managers, the ability to make the final decision. So
Mm.
they had talks about how to react to this social, um, historical, collective uprise and frustration and anger and injustice. And they decided not to go that route. So there were some corporations that they knew where to stand. And as much as Starbucks is whatever, those, I mean, it's an example of where they stood. They said, no, we're not going to shut down. Only the
Mm.
local managers, depending on where located, they will, they have the ultimate, anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought, when I heard, I think Mark Jacobs, I don't know, I might be misquoting, so I know this goes on the internet, so if I'm misquoting, I apologize. I think I remember Mark Jacobs specifically, their store in West Hollywood, essentially saying, and it got vandalized and it got looted, and then saying like, this is bigger than our store, and this is essentially what I said before is
Right.
that
Yeah.
this is not equate at all what is
Right.
happening in our society, and
Mhm.
we will
Mhm.
recover, and just a few lost shirts or whatever it was.
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
I think for me, because I know it happened in your neighborhood, Julio, and it happened in mine too, and um, for Van Nuys, we were all nervous because where specifically I live on Van Nuys Boulevard is all mom and pop shops.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
$2,500 to replace that glass is significant. And
Yes.
I still see places that, are boarded up because they don't have the funds to open back
Okay.
because
Good.
of just the glass alone,
Good.
So,
Good. I'm glad you say that.
yeah. So it wasn't that. I think that, I think part of what happened in Van Nuys is, people that were looting came and then they were kind of like, well, what the hell are we going to take here? And, and we're here, stole from a pharmacy and I think a jewelry store. And then went up the street to, I think Walgreens or something. But it was a different thing. And then after that happened, I think the more, hoity-toity stores and like Studio City started boarding up and
Good. Interesting. I'm
just
so
their
happy
own
that we
ass.
exchanged that experience because here, yeah, definitely the damage that I saw was on the uh, Bevmo, which,
Right.
the next day they just replaced all the glass.
Right. Right.
And yeah, there was tagging, but, it was just, it just didn't feel, yeah, as you said, yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm glad that we're having this conversation because I think it's important because it just makes sense. Yeah. No, it makes sense that we have this. Anyhow, so for me, it was interesting to read that perspective, and obviously it applies differently depending on the neighborhood and the shops, and um, but yeah, what I did feel, and I can tell you, maybe because of my neighborhood, I found deeply offensive that there's this store, I forgot the name. It's on Robertson. Which a lease on Robertson is like what now, $40,000 a month, and they just put like a Black Lives Matter piece of paper on the
Totally.
next to the ivy.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like, come on,
exactly.
you guys,
Exactly. Right. Right. And
are
it's
you
just to save their own
serious?
ass. Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
but it's good that you brought that experience as well because it's true in Van Nuys. It's I know that it's not as gentrified. Obviously, and
Right.
that was it's a different perspective, obviously. And you never knew because every day on Twitter the focus or the target changed. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember that Van Nuys, for some reason, someone and whatever influencers said it was a good the decision to target Van Nuys, but the barrage of
Yep.
people saying, "What the hell are you talking about, Van
Right.
Nuys?" There
Right.
was a massive backlash to the person who said, "Okay, let's just target Van Nuys." Everyone just
Yep.
said,
Yeah, and that's what happened. So we had, we as a neighborhood had been kind of on edge,
right,
um, expecting it because we heard the same thing,
yeah,
and then because of the backlash and because so many people were like, listen, Van Nuys is,
Must have gotten Valley Glen mixed up with Van Nuys
mm-hmm,
because that used to be Van Nuys,
totally.
Right.
Yeah, my
And
my
that
aunt,
was the gentrified part, so they changed it to Valley Glen.
yeah, and Valley Village. My aunt grew up.
Well, Valley Village is North Hollywood.
Oh, well, I don't know. I lived on Burbank and Whitsett, and we called
That's
that.
North Hollywood. That became Valley. Burbank and Whitsett is North Hollywood. That's where I grew up,
oh,
and it
Right.
became Valley Village.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My aunt did too. So she always laughed when I called it Valley Village. She was like, "That's ridiculous." She went to Grant. Did you go to Grant, Darlene?
I sure did.
Yeah, she did too. That's so funny.
Really? What year did she graduate?
Oh gosh, I'm not sure. Oh, and I don't know her maiden name. Jan. Oh man, it's gonna take me a minute. I'll find out. I'll find out. I'll actually text her.
The valley has so many areas that are, they try to glamorize now.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Totally. Well, she's like horrified by the neighborhood now. And when I lived there, what, like, I don't know, 8 years ago, and she was horrified at what it become. And I was like, actually, it's pretty nice and safe. And there's a large, like, Orthodox Jewish community.
Yeah, there's a large
Great.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And there's also, it's a real mix now. It's not the valley I grew up in, I'll say that.
Yeah, she told me about how you guys would like cruise down Van Nuys Boulevard.
Exactly.
So funny. All right, let me see if I can get her on text. What year did you graduate, Darlene?
I graduated in 1969.
Okay. Let's see.
So while you search for that, which is, I think it would be super cool to find that connection. I've been working on second notes, half an hour. I started doing some texture on the plywood because I made the decision to, now that I make the three pieces distinct from each other, which I think you can appreciate or it's visible. I put some shadows on top to make sure that they look like recessed behind an eave, on the sides, a little bit of darkness on the edges, so it made the three distinct. And then what I did, this is still second notes, but I added some texture, doing like darker and lighter brush strokes on top of the boards. So I think I pretty much, it does have a look of a board covering a window, and I'm really, I think I'm content with that stage. I'm working right now on the ground because I feel like this area, and as you can tell already by adding this, it could even help me further give the idea of this being the sidewalk, and then this being the shop window. Anything that's peripheral to what I consider the most important part, when I develop it, it will help me raise the visibility, the likeness, the illusion of perspective of that area. So it's not just the plywood and the texture that counts. It's the shadows, it's the difference between them, it's the cracks, it's the edges, and certainly it's going to be the sidewalk. So I'm not worried about the rest, but this is really important. I think this alone, it's helping the painting tremendously in the sense of like bringing this illusion of shop window being, yeah. So yeah, I'm just working on the sidewalk. I'm just gonna bring a little bit of texture, or a combination of texture, but also bring a little bit more thickness because it looks very washed right now. I can see the grain of the pearlized drops of the mineral spirits with paint. So I need to bring more, or move that look from the dry area to something that feels more painterly or with strokes. So that's going to help me a lot. I'm having so much fun right now. I mean, I love a lot of things in life, but you know, painting, it gives me such a joy. I mean, I just love, I don't know. I feel like, you know, we're very static and we're not moving or, you know, hiking or doing some fun exercise, but it's just a different kind of excitement. I just feel really engaged. Um, it gives me joy. I feel happy about what I'm doing. Something really exciting about painting, I feel. So I'm at that stage right now. The beginnings is always at the beginning. There's always this insecurity, and but again, just uh, I've learned to look past restrictions and difficulties, and it's always worked out for me. I always felt like when I moved past that, I found a place of enjoyment, and so the more that happens, the more I know I have to look past the difficulties. So it's a cumulative habit, and if I don't do it, then I know that the cumulative habit it's going to be the reverse. The less I look past difficulties, the more encroached in this non-creative state, and that doesn't provide any kind of like sense of fun happens. So it's my to me, painting is my anti-aging uh, activity. I know that within the challenge and the insecurity, um, I find a place of enjoyment and pride, and I can tell myself I did it. I've been able to do something. I've been able to do this painting. There's a sense of accomplishment. So many things that go beyond just what the painting looks like that we don't really analyze. I think to me those are really important. I think that's why we paint. I think that's why we paint. Really. All right, so yeah, I'm just working on the floor. I think that's going to be important. I know that I don't have to add all the details, but that alone. So I have like 20 minutes. I'm going to give myself 20 minutes for the rest. And what am I going to do with the rest of the time? So, all right, let's just kind of like see if I can come up with a strategy. 20 minutes, that's relatively not a long time. So if I want to do too many things, I don't know how that's going to work. So I think I should, because I love the reflection of the palm trees. I think this is so cool and they're so underdeveloped. So something tells me that I should go there and do a little bit of work. But at the same time, what's really cool on the boards is the fence over them. So I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to take 10 minutes to the palm trees, to work on the palm trees, and 10 minutes to work on the fence. It's gonna be a little challenging, but let's do it. So I'm just gonna work with this one first, the reflection of the palm tree. Darker to lighter. I don't have green, so forgive me. I'm just gonna go and get my, whoopsie. As we talked about, or we did a post recently, and we talked about how to organize your paint box. So this is my Ziploc with all my greens. So I just removed any duplicates from inside of the paint box, and then I just put one big Ziploc with my staple palette, and then I grouped things by color. So now I don't have to dig and look for a green that it's going to take me 5 minutes to find. So boom, sap green, got it. And it's down and ready to be used. Highly recommend you organize. I don't care if you have one green inside of a Ziploc, but organize your colors in your paint box. And because there's nothing more frustrating than seeing a color that you want to work with and not finding it. Because we want it and we want it now. When we want a color, we want it not now, like 2 minutes ago. So I'm just working on dark notes and see, it's only 10 minutes, so I just have to work really fast. So again, time management. In the back of my mind, I have a figurative timer. I mean, that tells me I shouldn't spend too much time on this palm tree. So I'm just gonna do a minimal work for now. And I can always go back later and just find more or fill it out more. The palm tree or any foliage, it's as much defined with its canopy as it is with the negative space around it. So I know that I just added a few nodes, and then I'm just gonna go inside and trim from the outside and bring some sky tones inside. Yeah, it's gonna be it, and a little darker, and there's a little bit of a golden tone right here, if I can. All right, so I have one palm tree down, and then I'm just gonna do the other one, which has a double reflection. That's gonna be a little nuts, but I'm just gonna do it because I think it's super interesting to get that double reflection. To me, these two they represent paintings within the paintings, almost the way I see it. So one is more abstract than the other. And then I'm gonna use white zinc because there's a reflection on top. I don't need this to be super recognizable. And then there's a lighter area. All right, so that's what I'm doing. That's my strategy, just kind of like working on those two elements and try to see if I can bring some definition there, because I think they're playful, and ultimately they're the reason why I chose that image and not another. The fact that I have the reflection of two palm trees. Good, I still have time, my goodness. So for that, I'm just gonna have fun with it, because there's some blue inside. And this is a little faded. And that's a little darker. I always try to build. I observe and see if I find something that I didn't catch. And then I just apply it with a simple brush stroke. There's always a sense of moving forward, or building rather, building. This probably needs some orange, but I'm not gonna use it right now. Here we go. And then darker green, darker green. So, oh yeah, so good. Okay, good. So some darker green. So I have the two palm trees. That's not bad. And then I still have time. All right, so let's go to the ends. It's good that I have a little bit of extra time, because I think it's going to take me more than what I thought. All right, so let's just focus on that and see how that. I'm going to use a color that it's not super dark, because otherwise it's just going to be too graphic. And I'm just going to mark this two first. All right, that's good. So not too dark. I'd rather not make it super dark. It's very good. So it doesn't take over too much. And there are 3 in between. So 1, 2, and 3. So they're barely visible, but that's enough. And then I just love the accordion shape. Okay, so 3 accordion shapes. This is mostly sketching right now. And the final one. All right, so I just got like a very simple kind of like grid. I think that's good. So, oh, wow, that's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. So I'm just gonna try to split it first. So there are 4 here, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And then on the other one, there are also 4. So, but they're like more, like closer to each other. So I'm sketching right now. Okay, and then I'm just gonna do, oh, there's some in between. You know, instead of like doing one by one, I'm just gonna do an interpretation, and which is already good. And I'm just gonna do zigzagging. I'm gonna do zigzagging in a really rough, crazy way. And I think that's gonna be okay. I'm just not gonna worry too much right now about the exact fall or the exact area. I think that's good. I'm just going a little bonkers here. But that's good. I think that it's texture. I don't have to develop it the same way. I'm gonna do some bars underneath, and then I'm gonna use some lighter gray to create sort of like a different texture. But I'm being really sloppy and untidy right this moment, because I think that it's working already, and and it's totally messed up. But this gives an idea of a fence on top of it. And I'm gonna bring my blues. So this is my Ziploc, my Zippy with the blues, because I have, I'm looking for cerulean, because I love the graffiti there. So I'm just gonna bring that cerulean. See, boom, it took me like 3 seconds to find it. Otherwise, I would be digging. I will be digging inside of that box forever. All right, so here we go, cerulean, because I love those letters. I think they're super fun. So I'm gonna bring those, the tagging. I think that's kind of like fun to bring the tagging on top of the texture. I just got a book about graffiti that I'm gonna bring it and show it to you guys. That's really good. The history, mostly that's what we got on the West Coast, that we should be more proud about. Different kinds. I'm not talking just about the tagging and stuff, but mostly about murals. Yeah, I think that's good. That just gives a really interesting look to this painting. I actually think it's pretty cool, the fact that there's a tagging on the painting. I can make it a little stronger right now. Everything's super wet. I'll consider this like work in progress for sure, because I really want to develop this. Again, to me, this is such an unusual subject. And anything that feels odd in comparison of what we think the language should represent, it's worth developing and exploring more. So yeah, okay, so I think that's good. I love the four, let me see, I can just do some work on that. Can I do some work on that window? Yeah, why not? So I'm gonna do the 4, 5, 9. I like the combination of architectural without any perspective, any vanishing points. And then the painting, the painted stuff. I think it's really cool. I really like this painting. There's a number, I'm just gonna scribble it here. There's a Instagram thing. So mostly I'm doing details right now. There's a log, so I'm gonna do the log at the bottom. And a keyhole. And I think, and there's a sticker here. I think those tiny polka dots on the painting really make a difference in creating texture. There's a blue sticker on the floor, so I'm going to add the blue sticker on the floor with the cerulean blue. And then the sign, I even have, I have 6 minutes, guys. So I'm going to have time to do the a little bit of the sign. You can see it. Let me see if I can move this a little bit. There's a little bit of the sign here. There's a sign from the hair salon in cerulean blue. So I'm gonna bring that color right now and then see if I can, bring it up.
If there's pieces that you guys can't see on your screen because the thumbnail is blocking it, you can actually grab the thumbnail and move it to a different part of your screen if it's blocking Julio's image. Like right now I have pinned the painting. And so there's a thumbnail of Julio painting, like his face, and then another thumbnail of the painting itself in my upper right-hand corner. And so it's blocking some of the image. So what I did was I pulled the whole thumbnail down because I don't need to see Julio's arm, but I do want to see the image. So just in case you guys have the same issue.
All right, so I'm just adding some, this feels more like it's like sketching right now, because I'm using the brush as a drawing tool. I'm just bringing some elements here. But I think, yeah, it just makes a huge difference. All this like tagging stuff. I'm happy about the, yeah, I'm not, so now I have it more clear, or I'm certain that I'm not gonna put the bike rack on the painting because it would be distracting. And I think if this gets developed, it could look really nice the way it is with the sidewalk sort of like clear. So yeah, I'm glad I waited before I made a decision, because now it's clear to me that I don't need it. And that happens frequently with paintings. So sometimes if you're not sure, that means that probably you shouldn't do it and wait it out and see what the rest of the painting and how it develops, and then you can always bring it in. So it worked for me in that sense right here. I'm working really fast here, but I think that's good. And then I'm just gonna bring some white. They opened a chicken restaurant and right next to it. Brand new. I don't know. Not Chick-fil-A, thankfully.
Is it hot chicken?
Something like that. It's like a, I've never
Yeah.
seen, but it has a
Is it
name.
like Dave's Hot
Yeah,
Chicken?
yeah.
Dude, it's huge. It's
Oh,
the
really?
next day. I'm just kidding. But yeah, really big deal. It started in Koreatown.
Really?
And Koreatown, or was it Koreatown? Yeah, I think it was Koreatown. And Koreatown was like, no.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I listened to a whole thing on NPR about it. And so
Wow.
Dave, or whoever, I guess Dave, went around to all of the neighbors in this area and gave them chicken, and like, essentially saying, I'm not here to gentrify your neighborhood. I, am, I believe, I don't know. I don't know if Dave is Korean, but I believe he is of an Asian descent. And so he was like, my intentions are pure. It's just really good chicken. But people have been coming from, all over LA to have this chicken. And now it's in North Hollywood. And now look, in Fairfax.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
well,
thing.
I had no idea. They just opened because they were under construction, and then I think they're finally opening.
I'll post a picture of it.
Did you find the name of the business that Darlene's painting by any chance?
So I found the picture of it from the street, and it's posted.
Oh,
But
okay.
I don't know that actually it
Does he have
shows the name.
Oh.
Yeah, it's funny. It's actually blank. There's a red sign in the window that could maybe say it.
Wow.
Let me look.
So I just discovered that I had like a little corner that that it's gonna help this create a more dynamic look at the end. So the wall ends, and then there's a wall recess in the back. There's a red tile. So there's a lot of things. There are a lot of things going on here that I find very interesting. I didn't have a chance to develop this area with the stickers and the pipes, but I'm really excited about doing this. But this is the stage that I'm going to leave the painting at. I think I accomplished what I thought I wanted to accomplish. I think it looks better than I thought it was gonna look, which to me that means success. But yeah, I'm happy about what this looks like, which is a store window that's been boarded up, and that's what I wanted. And I like the palm trees, and I think it's pretty clear. If you wouldn't have the image, I think you would understand that this is what it looks like. So I'm gonna work more on it, and then what we're gonna do is I'm really excited to get together after the 10-minute break and see if you guys what you guys have done. I encourage you to upload because even though you may be shy and insecure about your process, think of it this way: you are helping the rest of us in getting inspired and also yeah, in getting ideas. And so you're contributing to the learning experience of all of us. So it doesn't matter what stage you have it, unless you have lots of reservations. I would encourage you to upload it. You can send it to Jen and she'll upload it for you. But yeah, let's take a 10-minute break. So it's 1:02. Let's reconvene at 1:12. Move around, stretch, drink, take whatever break you need to, your body needs to take. And then let's just meet at 1:12 and we'll do the conversation, critique, everything. All right, looking forward. I'm gonna stop so here we are again. My bow tie is like, okay, perfect. So yeah, thank you. And Jen, any questions or comments during the session or anything that needs to be addressed?
No, I'm trying to find the name of this furniture store, and every image I get, it's like there's a sign in front of it or a car in front of it. So no, the image is on the shared.
Yeah. And
But
let me see if I can find it, because sometimes what I do is I just go photo center. Oh my gosh,
looking
no,
at it,
it doesn't.
yeah, exactly. I'm looking at it on Google Maps. I've even done the whole like
Yeah, zooming in and stuff.
situation. Yeah, and there's a
Yeah, I found it.
okay, great.
Sam Kaufman Gallery.
Great.
Sam Kaufman Gallery, temporarily closed. But yeah, Sam Kaufman. No website. Maybe, yeah, Sam Kaufman. I think that's how it's pronounced. But anyhow, so yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna, what am I doing? I'm gonna share the screen. And this is Border Up. Okay, here we go. I think we have it. All right, perfect. So yeah, thanks for posting the Dave's Hot Chicken.
The Fairfax one isn't posted yet, but that's the one in Koreatown.
Yeah. And also, oh, let me just make the, sorry guys, I should have done that. I make you can unmute yourselves if you want to jump in. So yeah. And then so this was I just uploaded this is the photo that I used. I uploaded my work, so it's still a lot to do, but I'm not unhappy. That's the motto of 2020. I'm not unhappy. So yeah, and then this is the photo center right here. Marvin, he's been in business for such a long time. It's incredible. And yeah, so you can see the wooden furniture and thing and from Northern Europe. So sad that it says temporarily closed, so hopefully it's gonna come back. And so yeah, Darlene, if you want, I'm gonna go ahead and give some feedback and with your painting. This was the image. And I just love the compositionally. I think it's fantastic. I'm glad that you also trimmed the top of the building. So I think it's great. So I feel a couple of things, I would say, because I know that you went with texture on the stone by doing pointillism, and I think you would have been better off on the texture to do some lines instead, darker lines, rather than just kind of like do sort of like impasto. But I don't think that is as important as other stuff. To me, I just feel like, for example, the recessed area of the door, I would work on this a little bit more because it feels a little bit skewed on the side. It's not a problem, but since you have things vertical on this side of the painting, the fact that the other side it's a little bit skewed, maybe it's the photograph. It just feels a little bit, I would consider working on it. On this area, maybe making things a little bit darker on the side. Don't worry about the texture. The texture is something you can do later. It's more important that you work on the shapes and the value than the texture. And I feel I would also warm up the plywood a little bit more with using burnt sienna mixed with a yellow ochre. I feel it's very pale and it just gets lost a little bit. So I would increase that warmth. It almost feels like a orangey of the plywood. I love the fact that, well, yeah, never mind. Yeah, that you left paper, but I love the fact that there's something really cool and interesting about the ripped pages or the ripped parts of the paper. So I would increase the value of the board. So the paper that it's pasted on it creates an interesting shape. And I would tear down the pieces of the paper that are off. You know, this pieces in the middle, the edges on the side. To me, this feels like really interesting, almost like a map of a country. And then absolutely love the nasty comment or the tag. I think that conceptually it's really cool and interesting. I would work on the font a little bit because I feel like I love the fact that the font has this big S with a strong kind of like spiral. So I know that you did an interpretation, but yeah, I mean, it looks good the way it is. But yeah, I'm glad you simplified it. And what's
I
important
had
also,
to. Yeah, I had to simplify it.
okay,
But
no, that's good.
honestly, I painted over all my lines on the top
Oh,
there of the building. I don't know what happened. It just
that's okay.
got.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah, yeah. I think obviously, you know, there was something that felt off, so I'm glad you did. Yeah, and you just go by what feels right, because if you had like some lines and they didn't feel like 100%, yeah, I just feel like the texture doesn't read mid-century to me. It just reads like
Right.
more like a stucco, and the quality of the mid-century stones, I like the kind of like mosaic style, and it doesn't
Okay.
have to be everywhere. So I know there are a lot of lines, but just a few. This feels like a little bit more faded, but you have a few here, and yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And also I love the cast shadow, the light. There was sunset light, so there is a little bit of a cast shadow from the building. I would just bring it because it's very pale. I think I would just bring a little bit of warmth. You did it. Yeah, I think you did it. I just feel
Well, you know,
amazing.
I was going I was going off my I realized now I made a copy and my printer was lacking color, and I
Oh,
was painting from something that is totally lighter than what
oh,
I'm looking at now. So
that happens.
I understand.
No, no, no. It just happens. I think you have a very good, strong base. I also love the fact that on the photograph, there is the building ends, but then there's a wall that's recessed, and there's like a baseboard made out of like fake stones.
Mhm.
So there's something that shows continuity somehow. I would consider that because right now it's kind of like free floating. There's no
Okay.
sort of like separation. And I like the fact that there's this baseboard that it's recessed and a little bit higher than the side of the window, of the door, of the entrance, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So I would, yeah, I would add it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think you have a very strong base. Whoopsie, someone's at the front door. I think it's gonna be okay. Yeah, I think it's gonna be okay. So yeah, you have a really strong base. I would definitely work on it because it's a really interesting painting. And I know that anything that you add on the work that you have, it's just gonna make it much better. So mostly warm up the wood, anchor the building on the side, see if you can incorporate some of the stone lines or the grout, just to give it more of a mid-century look, and see what that takes you.
Okay, thanks. That gives me great ideas to continue with it.
Yeah, no, it's totally worth it, and I love the painting, and I think it's totally worth adding a few more details because it's gonna surprise you.
Thank you.
Um, cool, and then Sarah Jennings, yay! This is on Larchman. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that was all border up. Um, Wow. Yeah. Okay, good. This is an excellent image, just because it incorporates um, the street, the tree, the sky, the wires, the car. So really cool. I think it's just phenomenal. You did an incredible job. I love this car. Love. The car is just like amazing and beautiful. I like the composition. Was sort of like a premise that invited for a better study of arranging things on our format. I think you did a phenomenal job. There's a little bit of the sky, there's a little bit of the tree, there's the ground or the street that grounds everything. Compositionally, it's really, really well done. So I would say things that I would do, and I love that you kept things horizontal and vertical. So I think that's a really good decision because it makes you feel like you're more there rather than just being a photograph. So I think that's a good decision. I would work on the texture of the board. There's a couple of things that I find really interesting that you did, but I would enhance the shadow on the sidewalk of the tree, but also the fact that you have a corner, the corner of the plywood. There you have one side that's lighter. It's like right here. One side that's lighter, and the other side that it's darker. So I feel like I would build this kind of like box almost, just to give an idea of something that's blocking. Because I feel like it's very flushed, and it just kind of like happens to end at the end of the car. So it almost feels like the car has been cut to fit the board. Um, so that's an area that I would work on. Definitely just either bring the board a little bit in the car or extend the back of the car. So you create different layers. Right now, it feels that too sliced or guillotine um, at the end. And also, I think it's gonna be too small in the painting to put the least sign, but so don't. Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah, I like how you link the building with the adjacent buildings on each side, so that feels really nice. I would work on if, which I hope you do. In fact, Sarah Jennings, I'm gonna beg you to do it because based on the what's on the precedent of the 3 passes that you need to the sunflowers, to the sunflower painting, there's no question that from now on I will not ask you not to work on it because that was unbelievable. I was showing Kian the 3 stages, and the final one he was blown away. Blown away.
Well, I have to say, thank you. I was called away. I only got an hour to work on this
Wow.
because I was called away by a donor who I've been trying to reach, who lives in Napa. I'm just going to sidebar for a second and tell you
Yeah.
the story that he told me.
Yes.
He said that the entire area around him burned up, except for where he was in Napa. There are over 600 fires raging in the area right now. And his next door neighbor had a horse farm. This is a happy ending. Had a horse farm in Vacaville. Did you hear about what happened to Vacaville?
No.
Vacaville was basically burned up. And the entire horse farm burned up. He had 110 horses that he put into the one corner that didn't have any trees. They all survived, and he had to bring down 15 tractor trailer truckloads of water to make sure that the horses had water so that they would live, and they all lived. So that was the story he was telling me while the session was going on. And I had called him 3 times, and honestly, he's in his late 70s, and I was afraid that COVID had gotten him and he wasn't calling me back. But
Yeah.
you know, thank you for these notes. I feel like I basically got first notes down, and then he called me. But I have a clear path as to what to work on.
This is a really important painting. It's your neighborhood, and it's a photo that you've taken. I think it's just going to be an extraordinary addition to your collection, no doubt.
Thank you.
Cool. Did you take the photo? Did someone take the photo for you?
No, I took the photo, and it was a restaurant that I love going to. I also intentionally, because I didn't have any time, I didn't put any of the lettering in. So that's going to be a challenge, because of course I want it to be known what restaurant it was, and that's a big part of it. And I didn't flesh out the lighting fixtures or the lights that are attached over the naming of the restaurant. You know, there are 4 attached lights to the wall that I didn't put in, and there are a lot of things that I just didn't put in. But
okay, well, I'm really excited, looking forward. The car is brilliant, and I'm glad it's there. So I just can't wait.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Awesome, good. And I'm just gonna. Oh, Claire, this is you're joking, really? They bordered? Is it still bordered up, or?
I think it is. I found this photo online, and the reason it was because that's the Beverly Wilshire Hotel. It's iconic.
Right.
And it was so refreshing to see someone on their bike in front of the hills, just riding along. Hey, now's our chance. So that's why I picked the photo. I think I bit off more than I could chew with this one, but.
No, I think it's fantastic, and I can't believe that they bordered it up. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that was supposed to be a Target, Rodeo Drive, but I don't know if they did any damage, honestly, because.
What I have to say about the discussion of.
Yes, please.
I have mixed feelings. In my neighborhood, there was a lot of looting and rioting along Melrose and Fairfax within a mile of my house. And a lot of those businesses are mom and pop businesses, but a lot of them are from people who don't live in the neighborhood, who've taken over and think it's okay to destroy somebody else's neighborhood. I think that created fear in the other neighborhoods like Beverly Hills, that were freaking out. We need to board up. And my feeling, having lived through the LA riots, was they were right to board up to protect their business. And yet, I have a friend who, she and her husband own Modernica on Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
They boarded up, but they also sent an employee there to guard the business and to be a presence to talk to anyone who might come along. Mm-hmm. And they had no damage, nor did the building next to them. But the ones across the street where no one was there had damage. And I feel like it's a complicated issue, but I think it comes down to being a part of the community your business is in, and protecting your business is also protecting the community. People who came in and looted were not from the,
Right.
they
Yeah.
were opportunistic. So
Yes.
I think it's a complicated issue, and I'm really glad we did this assignment. I wasn't going to do it because I'm like, no, I just want to paint flowers and enjoy my house. But then when I thought about it, and after our discussion yesterday, I thought, yeah, this is of the time we're in, and it's,
Right.
sorry, I've been going on a little bit, but it's important. So
Yeah. No, I'm so happy that you just uh, expressed your view on it. I think it just makes elevates the conversation, and so thank you. First of all, thank you for it, because we all may have our own opinion and our own feelings, but it's when we listen to others and what they think of, at least personally, that then I can build on or be more thoughtful, more understanding, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, so I'm glad that you brought that perspective from your own experience, because it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense, and it is complicated, but at the same time, just because it's complicated, it doesn't have to be kind of like simplified into two polarized opinions. There's a lot of room to talk about specific cases, and yeah, so I'm really thankful that you brought up your experience with it. So, and I'm glad that you painted it, because it's true. Yes, I mean, sometimes there are certain subjects that are more conducive to being creative, and some that we don't want to deal with the politics of it. But at the same time, I just feel like what a perfect way to document. I mean, not everyone can say that we were witnesses of this, and I think as painters, it's nice to have something to back that up, and then say in the future, yeah, I have a painting that I did because of it. So,
exactly, because of, when am I going to get to see this again?
right.
There was something really freeing about COVID, where all of a sudden people were riding their bikes in streets that were empty. So that's
Right.
the feeling I wanted to bring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think you did an incredible job. And in fact, I think compositionally, I noticed that you made a lot of changes, and I think you did the right changes, because it just enhances or strengthens the image. And again, what I said to Sarah, it does make you feel like you were there rather than just being a photograph of it. And having everything being aligned or with verticals and horizontals, or mostly, it's a way of strengthening that point of view. Nobody needs to know. And I think compositionally it works. It just creates a nice framework for whatever's going on. And obviously, I mean, the guy with the bike, it's an important part of the snapshot that makes your choice of image very distinct and to you. So I think it's just compositionally, I think it's great. It also, I think you had a lot of challenges, but you resolved them so smartly, I would say. So this is number one, totally recognizable, the painting, because, those purple round awnings, I could immediately recognize them with the building, which is a very iconic building. And then you put the street, the Redondo Drive, so it just, you understand that this is the crossing of Wilshire. So another iconic part of the building is all the texture on the actual building. And you did a good job by creating it without needing to be very descriptive of it. So I think that's brilliant. I love the boards. You created different shadows, which is great. I like the scribbling on them, so you can totally read. So I think you did a fantastic job creating enough or depicting enough information to contextualizing in a location, and also making sure that this is identifiable. So good job, really good job. I would like things that I would do. I think I would still work on making the boards look more like boards, because you accomplished the fact that that's the building that we recognize, but I feel I would work more on the boards. And yeah, maybe darkening some of the upper and lower areas, because that distinctively makes you look like it's something behind it. So I would definitely do that. For example, on this board right here, just because it looks like this has been it's like a blocked entrance. Um, Perhaps, yeah, I think you did a good job with the cast shadow, but on this one, it doesn't look as clear. So you have the cast shadow of the awning on this board that gives you the idea of that being a surface that's upright and flush to the between the columns. I would possibly enhance that shadow a tad more and definitely bring it on the window on the left. So there's a correlation, at least between those two windows, there's a better correlation between the light, the cast light on them. So I think, yeah, I think that's probably it. I would also kind of like correlate the same, even though it's different, but I would correlate it also with this window right here. So I can imagine if you replicate the window effect or the light effect rather on this from this awning on the other two on each side, you'll get a much stronger effect of the awnings protruding, the board covering the window than you already have. So I would work on the boards.
Can you tell me how to make the awnings? Thank you for that. Can you tell me how to make the awnings look more rounded, like they're protruding?
So what I see on the awnings, there's the light, the way it's organized, there's a crescent effect. A crescent meaning like, you know, there's an intensity of the purple on the bottom part. And then on the dome effect, you can see, let me see if I can, no, I cannot make it bigger. But
Oh, it's a little bit lighter.
yeah, it's bleached. It's bleached. It's faded, and it's a combination of well, it's the light really bleaching that color. So what I would do is this feels very regular all over. But definitely, I would increase the color on the bottom right, and then I would kind of like bleach the top in a crescent way on the three of them. Kind of like I would use the one on the far left as a guide because it's the one that has the most contrast between the color and the reflection. So this would be my guide. So notice the three white stripes, they're different. The one on the right, it's darker. The one in the middle has a little bit of a reflection on top. And then the one on the left, it's much brighter. So I would use that to do to replicate or on the awnings for starters, and then do kind of like more of a purple, intense purple on the bottom right.
I'm hoping it'll get better. Part of me wants to tear it up, but it's on board and I can't.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
It's on board, so I can't tear it up. So I have to work on it a little more.
Don't. I mean, I'm glad that it's on board, but it's a really awesome painting. Really iconic. Really.
So I used our little strategy brought up last week of the star of the painting and making them wait. Like I know you think you're pretty, Mr. Bicycle Man. I didn't last because I knew if I fixated on that first, I would never get anything done. So what I fixated on instead was the texture of the wall, and maybe should have fixated on the awnings more. But
No. That's probably the most challenging aspect, and I think you did a fantastic job. You did a fantastic job. Well done. I'm glad you did. The color is awesome.
Thanks. It was a fun assignment.
Yeah, I think so too. It's nice to go from still life of objects to something architectural. I think it's a nice palette cleanser. So awesome, Claire. Well, I just can't wait. And yeah, I'm gonna do another refresh just in case there's someone else. Oh yeah. Ooh, Julie. This looks so good. Oh, I love
It's hard with the writing.
Right. I know. I just think that you did a good job. I mean, I know that this is not. It's 9 by 12, right?
Yeah, it is.
So that's.
And yeah, I'll just tell you that Ojai is only a little town, so we didn't have any real riots here, thank goodness. But this has been boarded up, and now they just have paper in the window. So there is a photo in there if you want to go find it.
Yeah.
It's been out of commission for now 2.5, maybe 3 years, and it's sort of the whole big business problem is that they had a terrible flood in the building and the insurance wouldn't cover it, and the community is really upset because it's the only movie theater and that's where a lot of things happen. They have a lot of events there, but now it's been closed for so long. So I thought it would be worth painting just because of that, because it has been out of commission for so long. And for many, many years, it just said closed. Now they're using it as a signboard, to advertise things, which you can see Ojai Books is on there, and also a call to artists to paint utility boxes in town, which is kind of fun. So I figure it was my closest facsimile. I was tempted to do some of your Melrose photos, but then I thought I'm really sticking to this quarantine in my new place and keep it in the neighborhood.
Good idea, because ultimately I'm glad that the premise is similar. It's the fact that it was a thriving business that for whatever reason it just stopped working, and there are many reasons why people board up their businesses, and in this case we focused on the protests and the marches. But I'm looking at images of people in Texas, in Houston, and they're boarding up their homes because of weather, because of the hurricane. So, and who knows what's going to be the outcome, the financial outcome in some businesses that they are in the same position. They have the water surge, and then I don't know if the insurance is going to say, forget about this. I'm not going to cover. We're not going to cover any of this damage. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be some situation there. So, I mean, I feel like I'm saying this because I'm so happy that you actually painted an iconic building there, and which has a story, and that's the bottom line. I think for me, this is something that it's good, and it's a really beautiful building. I love the Spanish style, but also the letters. So I think I love the fact that you incorporated the letters as well. So I think, and the clothes, it's just perfect. I think it's just perfect.
Well, I was thinking because I was tempted to try to paint boards in the doors and windows, because it was boarded up for quite a while and now it's papered.
No,
but I thought I'd just put it black, sort of. I mean, should I do reflections? I felt like I could.
Yeah, I think so. It just depends. Like for example, because I feel like the light, the contrast is like so. Unfortunately, it's because of the iPhone or the smartphone that you use. It's not great because I think like this looks way too dark. So I would probably soften it depending on what color it is, because right now it just feels almost like it's painted. And then my guess is that it's not really. There's something about this that it feels a little bit more, a little softer. I love the grid. I think if it's a window, I would just soften it up a little bit, because I feel like that's something that like for example, the colors right here are much more softer. So I would kind of like bring a color that's similar to the color on the windows in that sense. So that would be my observation there. And then there's something cool about the sidewalk, and I feel this is like a red marks on the sidewalk. Is it like tiles or?
No, it's just a cement sidewalk. The red stripes going through there. Yeah, I can't even see that on this photo. I'm amazed you can.
And
I can see it on my iPad when I did it. And yeah, they're just strips that are painted red. And I had them in there originally, but I guess I sort of have them in there.
So to me, that's something I would work on because not knowing the building and not seeing the photograph, it almost looks like they're stilts or kind of like little pieces of wood underneath. They don't read as stripes. So I
Right.
think that's the area that I would work on to make sure that the building is anchored and flat, and then those read like stripes. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, I just think that that's what I would do. And also, uh, there's something really cool. I love the paper, and I think it reads like paper, so I think that's really brilliant. But if you wanted to get there, there's something really cool about the reflection of the street
Mm-hmm.
on the windows. I would
Right.
consider doing some sort of like a very light glaze
Okay.
that splits up the shadow that you have in two. Because I feel like if
Okay.
you bring that and all of the barely any distinction, but it's just going to give the idea of reflecting the street, which would be really cool.
Right. Right. And I was not doing that because I thought, oh, I want it to look boarded up, but it doesn't look boarded up. It just
Oh,
looks
I see, because the paper
right.
is behind it. I know. I get
Right. But the paper is behind. But I think it just will, you get the message because it says closed, right?
Yes.
And it's dark.
I think so. Yeah, that's actually that's really good because I was not thinking. I think so because what you're doing here, it's just bringing the same tone of paper all over. So there's no. Yeah, in fact,
Right.
possibly lighten it up a tad.
Okay.
So it reads more like that because I love this kind of like butcher paper
Yeah.
color right here. I know that this was supposed to be the sign, but I would bring this all over because I feel like
Okay.
that effect, it's really cool. So I would bring the same continuity of the effect on all of them. So it looks like it's blocked from behind. And then a little bit of the reflection, just
Right.
enough to see that it gives a nice context, you know, the lights.
Okay.
Because otherwise, I feel like it would benefit. It just gives them more of a spatial context.
Right. No, I agree. And I cut out the tree totally because I just thought it would be too cramped in there. I mean, I could go off the page.
Oh, good idea. No.
But do I need the green? I mean, I've just felt like, oh, it's going to get too busy.
I think it's a good idea not to have it because then you're forcing everyone to kind of like focus on everything else that's on the building.
Okay.
So I think it's a good idea not to have it. See what happens later if you want to include it, but I think it's better just to focus on the building itself.
Okay. That I think I'll work on the reflections, the
I think
windows, and the keyhole above. The
cool.
that I didn't above the Ojai Playhouse, that decorative element I just tried to do at the very end, and it was hard.
It reads beautiful. I think that doesn't need any touch-ups or anything because it reads beautiful. I love the tiles. And in fact, this is a very personal painting because of the name Ojai. So
Yeah.
I just think that's the key of this painting, the actual sign.
Yeah. Okay. So should I clean that up a little bit? Because that again was very hard to do with wet on wet. It just kind of messes up. But you see how it is kind of unclear even in the photograph because it's such an old sign and it's lost a lot of its heat.
It reads great. If anything, if you want to lift up a little bit the cast shadow behind it, underneath,
right?
So it doesn't merge with the darkness of the letters. So
okay, yeah, I added that at the very last minute too.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's just fine. But that would make the letters really pop from the bottom, the bottom part of the playhouse.
Okay, good idea. Oh, thank you. That's very helpful.
Good job. Good job. Good job. Yeah, and yeah, if you can dedicate a few minutes, if you can, right? Because it's going to be, yeah, and I think these paintings are going to be phenomenal.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
It was a fun exercise. I like architectural stuff.
I know you do. Yeah, and I do too. And I think it's good to bring it in between other stuff. I think it's important to be able to do everything. So I'm glad. Good job. Yeah, and it's really cool painting, and also very significant of the time. So I'm glad that you were able to adjust it to your own experience. I think that's very important.
Thanks.
All right, so I think that's it. I'm gonna work on this one this weekend for sure. I just want to add more fun elements and develop it a little bit further, because again, these are unexpected subjects, and I think they're worth giving a little bit more attention. So we're gonna have a nice collection of paintings. I'm really excited. And then did we add? Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched it, but this is the. It was hard for me to describe on the statement, but this is what the website of the Whitney Museum looks like for 30 seconds. That's sunrise and sunset, and I think it's a brilliant initiative. I hate to, I mean, the Whitney Museum canceled the show recently. This week, they canceled the show. I think we talked about it. Yeah, we did. They canceled the show that they organized by, buying pieces of art from contemporary artists that are doing work to raise funds for racial initiatives or racial equality initiatives. So some of the pieces were worth $100, and they didn't tell the artists. They just announced that they were going to do the show without telling the artists, and then they just got the pieces for cheap, $100 each. So the artists participating, they saying, "You guys, this is predatory behavior, and it's wrong." So they ended up canceling. So and apologizing for it because they didn't do it the right way. They should have told them that that was their idea, and they will approach them and communicate exactly what they wanted to do, because ultimately it could have been a win-win for both the Whitney and the artists in the community. As you said, Claire, it's important for people in the community to really understand what their role is, and sometimes the role is protecting the business, and but that doesn't make them not responsible for doing the most outreach when the community is under attack, basically. So they failed, in my opinion, blatantly. That doesn't mean that they did a good job. They didn't do a bad job with this initiative. I think it's brilliant. I think it's really fun, and it's also a way to direct criticism onto themselves in a really good way, because the piece is called Looting, and yeah, it could be open to different interpretations, but to board up a museum, I think it's virtually, I think it's really interesting. So anyhow, so I'm just going to stop right here. Thanks, everyone. This was phenomenal, fantastic. I hope you guys have the best. Yes, thanks, Arlene. The best weekend. Please work on the paintings. Next week, we're going to do the same thing in regards of our schedule. Tuesday, colloquium. Wednesday, studio time. Thursday, we will introduce the new assignment, which we have no idea what we're going to do yet, but something's going to come up. And then Friday, we'll just do the painting webinar. We have done one, what we call Roofless House Call, which was really fun. So that's been going on. We still don't have any directives from the county or the city in regards of like gathering outside. We know the contagion rate, it's decreasing, the death rate, the hospitalization, but nothing apart from that has changed in regards of like hiking or gathering with non-household members. So even though people do it, we're not going to do it until they officialize it. So we're still going to be in remote mode. So yeah, until whenever. So Jen, any notes, any comments? You want to say anything?
No, just that today was awesome. Thank you so much. I loved learning about Martin Wong and seeing everyone's work. Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, it was good.
Question.
Yes.
Which painting should we be touching up for you to have online?
Okay, so yeah, we're skipped one week, and this week I'm gonna post. We have it. We still don't have it. I'm gonna post the dearest one. So we're 1 week behind, which is not bad because that gives us more time to work on paintings. So so this week it's gonna be the sink paintings. So
Okay, good. I need to work on it.
yeah, the state of our sink, and I want to work a little bit more on mine. So we are 1 week behind in our. It's good to be behind because that gives us more time to work on previous work. But yeah, the state of our sink. In fact, I'm gonna send an email this week to
So
everyone.
we'll have that ready by Sunday or Monday.
I would say Sunday night, yeah, because Sunday night it's a good idea. Yeah, if you have it and it's already done, you don't have to worry about it. But I always, I feel like, you know, I know how much better the paintings look like when we intervene even a few minutes. So if you can, and if you're interested in featuring it for sale on consignment, yes, work
The
a little bit.
deadline really helps, Julio. It really helps me to actually go
Okay.
back.
So I'll be clear. I'll be clear. I'll send an email, then I'll be clear about Sunday night being the deadline for any upgrade on the paintings. And then I'll ask for the information. And we always forget to ask, but I'm going to ask this time. It's the location of the original painting because everyone is in different parts. So we have we put them for sale. So you know how it works. We have a standard rate for shipping that pretty much we think covers everything. So that's a rate that the buyer pays. But we like to put on the description where the original painting is because it shows that it's going to ship from that area if it sells. So yeah, so we know that where you guys at, so we can do that for you. But it's something that we can add to the information. No, we haven't had any sales of paintings. We're not doing this for sales. We're doing this because we want to make our work, we want to take ourselves seriously. That's basically why we do it. And that's why we feature it this way. But we haven't had any. So, and that's fine. And that's fine. It just looks good on the gallery. It looks good all together. It feels good to promote the work that we do. So there are a lot of really good things about it, that it goes beyond just doing this as an exercise. No, it's serious. So sorry, that was.
Yeah, we appreciate that you do that. It's great. And I have to tell more people to go look at it at the gallery.
Right.
Yeah. You.
Yeah. Cool.
Thank you so much for all that you do, Julio and
Oh.
Jen. Just been such a rich
Yeah.
lesson.
Right.
Information.
There's
Thank you.
a lot of extras we get.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah. So no, we try. So yeah, anything for.
We're getting our doctorates in painting because of the two of you.
No one's doing what we do, you guys.
No.
We're creating this incredible work. I don't see anything, you know, where it's like fresh and it's now and it's good, and we're so proud of it. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank
It's so
you.
great.
Thank
Yep.
you. I feel so happy right now.
Good.
Aw. Yay.
Guys.
Good job.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So we'll see you next week.
All right. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Whenever.
All
So,
right.
yeah,
Love it.
send emails
Take
to
care.
me.
Happy
bye, guys.
weekend, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.